Very interesting. Um, I've been seeing a lot of Russian propaganda on YouTube lately. I guess YouTube's not watching. They're actually very sophisticated in how they present it, okay? It reminds me of the way Shell and Standard Oil had companies called Clean Air for America. There were actually fronts for anti climate change companies, okay? Fair taxes for Americans, those kind of titles, okay? Getting the same thing with this Russian propaganda on YouTube. So let me start off by saying this. If you have any generals, well, not any, there are a few generals, great term for these guys, that talk about Ukraine cannot win against Russia. Have you heard that lately? Have you heard that? Yeah, I know. A lot of people have. Luckily, my friends come to me because, well, I guess not being special gives me the ability to think logically. Not being special gives me the ability to remember past fucking yesterday. I guess being normal and not special gives me the ability to remember recent history. Ukraine cannot win the war against Russia. I heard that from 2 or 3 generals. And these are American generals, by the way. Oh, these are the same motherfuckers that took us to Afghanistan. The same ones that took us to Iraq. Basically the same types that took us to Vietnam. Okay? Oh, they forgot that, didn't they? Saying Russia is going to defeat Ukraine is like saying America was going to defeat North Vietnam. Or that we were going to change Iraq and make it a democratic society. Remember that, Mr. Cheney? We're going to change the Middle East. Remember that? What about Afghanistan? Oh, they're just a bunch of fucking know-nothing, nobodies. They're just backwards fucking nobodies living in the mountains. No problem. We'll bomb them out of existence. Remember that? I don't understand how the United States government allows these generals to even open their fucking mouths anymore, because they just make American military strategy look fucking ignorant. And it can't think past yesterday. Well, let me tell you what happened yesterday. So, it is extremely difficult to dig tunnels underground. Why? How do I know this? Well, because I have a friend who's in the business of tunneling. I've studied tunneling. I find tunneling machines quite interesting, and I've had experience with tunneling machines. So let me tell you what happens when you light 100 cars worth of train cars worth of diesel fuel underground in a tunnel. First, the concrete goes, okay? Because once you heat the concrete past a certain amount, it becomes fragile. Then you have the rebar that is inside the concrete. You now degrade the ability for the steel to protect and to reinforce the concrete. Then you have the soils and the rock, okay? The rock that they dig the tunnel through. You see, you want to dig a tunnel through rock because there have been quite a few very interesting experiences with tunnels digging through ground they thought was solid. And all of a sudden they start hitting voids. They basically have to stop, drill hundreds of holes in front of the boring machine in all different directions, like a fan, and then inject special types of concrete into there to solidify the ground. And this is just a small area, a mere 20 to 80 feet of soft soils and rock and fractures that weren't expected. That tunnel that they blew that train up, that was carrying diesel fuel, 100 cars of diesel fuel and a few, I think 20 cars of jet fuel. That tunnel is up to 1 kilometer deep in some areas, which is where they decided to set the explosives. That's called an insurgency. For you fucking generals out there, I hope you're not getting a retirement check, okay? These generals don't fucking understand what just happened. It's called an insurgency. It's the same reason America left Vietnam, okay, with their thumbs up their asses. It's the same reason we left Afghanistan with our thumb up our asses. It's the same reason that we left Iraq with our thumb up our asses. Because of these far-thinking generals. You can beat a fucking bomber and you can beat a fucking bomb, but you cannot beat a human being. You cannot eliminate the human factor from warfare, which is what these stupid fucks are attempting to push off, that Ukraine can't beat Russia in a war. No. Russia cannot beat Ukraine in a war. Do you know where this explosion took place? Huh? The middle of fucking Russia. Not in the combat zone, not on the front line. In the middle of fucking Russia. That's where this took place. That fucking railroad is done, and they're going to have to build a new tunnel around that area. We're talking years. This is going to be disabled. Years. So then what do? Well, they knew what the alternate railway was through Russia. Why? Because their fucking roads suck. Did you ever see the video about the long way around with Ian McEwan and what was his name, his buddy, that they went on motorcycles when they went through Russia? The roads through Russia are pretty fucked up. They don't have an international they don't have a highway system like the United States. They rely exclusively on fucking railroads to move people, goods, basically everything, okay? So then they sabotage the other railway. You see, the problem is, like Sun Tzu talked about, if you cover your left, you will weaken your right. And if you cover your right, you will weaken your left. If you cover your van, you will weaken your rear. If you cover your rear, you will weaken your van. If you try to cover everywhere, you will be weak everywhere. It is going to be impossible without years of fucking infrastructure being put in place to stop these partisans from blowing up those fucking railroads. That's number one. For you brilliant fucking generals out there who forgot about Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq, okay? Two, now that winter's coming on, Ukraine has decided, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to solidify the line that we have right now. We're going to start a new front. We are going to build solid infrastructure, defensive infrastructures across the areas of the current combat line. Not a Maginot line. No, that was a stupid mistake. But you see, It's not the same situation. They World War II, they didn't have satellite, and Reaper drones flying above, telling everybody who's moving everywhere and what they're moving, who's smoking what cigarette. That's how fucking good some of these satellites are now. Okay, so they've destroyed the transportation infrastructure of Russia in one fucking day. And you're telling me that Ukraine can't win a war with Russia? No, that's the wrong way to look about it, okay? Russia cannot win a war against Ukraine. And now, if you pay attention and you get your news someplace other than Fox fucking News, you'll understand that the Russian people are pretty sick and fucking tired of it already. That's how Russians are. They'll be behind the president for a year, maybe two, but then they start to get weary. Okay? And right now, they're at that stage. Wives are getting together and basically saying, hey, we want our fucking old men home. You haven't rotated our men out of battle in a year. We're not getting our fucking paychecks. Now Vladimir Putin is shitting his pants and trying to get money out to these women, these wives, as soon as possible because they're causing problems. You see, it doesn't look good to lock up 300 or 400 fucking wives whose husbands are in battle because you're not going to get anyone else to volunteer. Where are they looking now? They're looking in other fucking countries to get people to come and fight their war for them. So for all you brilliant generals out there, okay, maybe you should be a little more normal and stupid like me, okay? I'm no fucking genius, but I can read. I understand the history of warfare. I've studied it basically since I was a young kid. Avdiivka, that is like a firing range for Ukraine. Why? Because the Russians are stupid. Oh, we got to have Bakhmut. We got to have Bakhmut. We got to have Bakhmut. Why? Well, after you've been fighting there for a few months and you've been telling everybody how you're kicking everyone's fucking ass, pretty soon when they find out you're not kicking everyone's ass, they start to think, Russians might be a little slow thinking, but they do think, okay? That fucking railway is trash. They attacked it at its weakest, most vulnerable point, which is basically making the tunnel unsafe and unsecure. Even if there isn't a collapse, which I suspect by now, when you have, 80 to 100 train carloads full of diesel fuel burning for fucking days. Did you see what it looked like? Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't get it. Supposedly we have all these brilliant fucking military minds, but they don't seem to function past today's news headline that they can tout about, right? They don't remember history. Jesus, drives me crazy. Okay? It makes it sound like they're fucking propaganda, they're mouthpieces for Russia. You don't have to be brilliant to understand warfare, okay? When $1,000 drone is blowing up $2 million tanks, and you see Russia shipping tanks from the 1950s to the front line, you don't have to be a fucking Einstein to understand what's going on. The corruption of the last 30 years has just basically destroyed the military infrastructure of Russia. They've lied to their population so much that sooner or later the lies start to catch up with you because, well, it's kind of hard to keep people from accessing whatever they want to access nowadays, and information gets out no matter what. Even North Korea gets flooded with fucking USB drives from balloons. It's impossible to keep information out. And now all these wives are like, we want our husbands back, motherfucker. You said 1 year and we haven't received a dime. So now he's trying to get money to these wives as fast as possible to shut them up. Bribery money. But they're not going to get their husbands back. And they're having to actually go and recruit in other countries to fight their war for them. It's been hard on Ukraine, no doubt about it. They're even having to change some of the rules for basically, forcing you to enlist in the military. As far as I'm concerned, every able-bodied Ukrainian should be carrying a gun right now, including women. Big, giant Russia hasn't even been able to take 2 fucking little towns from Ukraine for a year. Because they're stupid. They're like, here we come. We want this little town right here. Here we come. We're going to focus all of our power and all of our tanks and all of our meat army right here so that you know where we're coming. Thank you. So, the next time you hear a general say that Ukraine cannot win a war against Russia, you might want to consider who that guy's speaking for.